Hey Shanda, this is Rich. I'm trying to put together what we've talked about already with your stuff. So, as I recall, your first IV was whether they got the facial recognition treatment test or whatever it was or not. So, it's your first IV, it's categorical or nominal. Your second IV was whether they got the six pack lineup or the sequential. And third IV is whether they got it right or wrong when they identified the perpetrator. Now, I'm going to come back to this one. This one isn't sitting well with me, but I'll explain it at the end here. Bam. And so your first DV is their confidence scores. And then they're going to watch a video. And then they're going to take another confidence score test. Okay, so your first question, does the facial recognition test affect their confidence scores? You would just use a couple of independent t-tests, right? These are your groups, whether they got the test or not. And then you would check their confidence scores. That's your DV in a t-test. And then you would repeat it for your second set of confidence scores. So that would tell you if there was a significant difference between the means of those two groups. That's what a t-test does. So the second question is, does the type of lineup affect the confidence scores? And it's basically the same thing. You're going to do two sets of t-tests. The groups are six-pack versus sequential. And again, these are going to be your DVs, confidence scores 1 and 2. So that's what a t-test will tell you. But because you have two different IVs and you're using the same DV, it would probably make more sense to run an ANOVA, because the ANOVA would automatically check for the interaction between your IVs. In other words, is there something weird going on between one of the lineup types and whether they got the facial recognition test or not? Okay, so it would be a 2x2 ANOVA, or what we call a factorial ANOVA, and the 2 would be the number of levels in your IV, this one and that one, and your DV would be your confidence scores 1. You could repeat it with confidence scores 2. And again, if your confidence scores 1 and 2 are highly correlated, it would make more sense to mush them together and run just a regular MANOVA. It's a multiple analysis of variance that would reduce your error rate. All right, that's what we already went over. So I've been trying to think of this stuff. Unfortunately, I've had medical problems all week, so I'm kind of out of it. But so the new stuff is the IV of what their facial recognition test scores were. Okay, so that would be a continuous variable, score variable. And what you could do is you could run a correlation between their facial recognition scores and their confidence scores to see if they are somehow strongly connected, right? Is there a relationship or not, a significant relationship going on between those or not? And then my brain keeps jumping back to this IV of them being correct or not. It's just very strange, right? This is more like a DV, right? It's an outcome. And I think I talked to you about this before. If you had enough IVs, you might be able to use this as a DV. That would be a logistic regression model. You would take all this IV information and see how accurate this model would be at picking if the subject was going to correctly pick the perp or not. But again, that's a different one. Or what we could just do is do another independent t-test here. Your groups would be correct versus not, and you could just check their confidence scores. What this would tell you would be that regardless if the subject picked the perp correctly or not, you could determine this through the difference of their confidence score means. In other words, if there was no significant difference between whether they got it right or not on their confidence scores, that tells you that these people are going to be as confident even though they're not picking the correct perp. Okay, that would be a lot of information too. But that's about all I can think of for right now, and I'm going to turn this over to one of my smarter tutors, Bong Shu. But if there's something that I missed here, please email me. So I will talk to you next week sometime. And again, I apologize. I've just been crazy busy. It's the start of school and everybody wants me.